And welcome back to another episode of Focus on Tomorrow. I'm your host, Rita Caballero. And for those who don't know, Focus on Tomorrow is a nonprofit organization which is located in Chicago, Illinois. You can find us on the web at www.focus-on-tomorrow.org, or you can email us at info@focus-on-tomorrow.org. And today we are featuring the Segundo Ruiz Belvis Cultural Center. And with me to my far left, we have Luis Bermudez, who is the executive director. And with me in the middle here, we have Amber Mohammed, who is our program coordinator. How are you guys doing today?
Good.
I just want to thank you guys so much for coming out today and, tell us about your cultural center. So the first question is, Segundo Ruiz Belvis Cultural Center has been around since 1971, am I right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So can you give us a brief history on the organization and tell us about your mission?
Sure. So we are the oldest Puerto Rican cultural center in the city of Chicago. Segundo Ruiz Belvis was a Puerto Rican patriot. He fought to free slaves. He dedicated his life to the idea that all people should be created equal. And he's considered one of the first Puerto Rican patriots. And so back in the 70s, late 60s, our founders saw that there was a real big disconnect between people who were born on the island and the people born off the island. And there was, the 60s, and the 70s, I don't think there was any real thought about cultural diversity or teaching about one's culture. It was really more about assimilating. And they just wanted to preserve that idea. And it's been an educational experience for myself, because I didn't even, as far as I was taught in the American educational system, it was just, Martin Luther King freeing the slaves, Abraham Lincoln. You don't realize that around the world, globally, people have been fighting for freedom, and so it was interesting to me to learn this. So that was the mission, and then it kind of morphed into more of arts education and using bomba as the platform and instrument to teach. It's an instrument to teach. About our culture and how Africa plays a significant role. I think that that's something also that was lost in the early 70s. Like, I know when I was growing up as a young person, Puerto Rican, no, we're Spaniards. That's it. Even though we got these uncles who are very dark and could be passed for African American. No, we're Spaniards. That's what we're taught. And yet no, we are an eclectic group of people. We are, I think we represent very many faces, and I think that's what makes Puerto Rican culture so beautiful. And the Caribbean, it's just this incredible eclectic group of people who were brought together or forced together and somehow have survived and created beautiful music and art.
So why do you think it's important for Puerto Ricans to appreciate the preserving their heritage, but why do you think it's really important for them to understand their African culture?
I think for far too long we are taught about Eurocentric cultures and the Picassos and European art forms, where there's beauty within African culture. There's art there's music there that's vibrant, that belongs on the same level as these kind of art forms belong in the art museum, as well as the Van Goghs and those kind of things. I'm drawing a blank on different European artists, but I think that's important. I think you look at that and it gives you a sense of pride. Like, I have an ancestry. I have something that I can contribute. I have something I can carry with me. Because when you carry that cultural pride, it gets you through the tough times. When you have a sense, and it grounds you. Because sometimes I think that you can be easily taken away and get lost in this society. But if you have something that kind of grounds you, it helps you during the tough times. I think sometimes as Latinos, we go into a higher education and we don't have this kind of cultural pride. And sometimes we're lucky enough to discover it. And I was lucky enough to discover it late in life, and it actually helped me become a better professional, as opposed to as opposed to not having that particular thing and knowing exactly what Boricua means instead of shouting it at the parade with no understanding of what it means. It means something. right? It means something, and I can hold it dear to me. So I think that's why it's important. I think it doesn't matter if you're Puerto Rican or if you're whatever, you find that thing in your culture and that art. The art, every culture brings something incredible, and it helps ground you.
And then, I think you really have a great point of that, because I feel like a lot of kids don't really have a lot of knowledge like to their heritage. Am I right?
Yeah, I think so.
Kids, they're like you said, kids are walking around screaming out Boricua, but the majority of them don't even know exactly what it means. And that goes the same thing for my Mexican heritage too, because as I was growing up, I was raised in a household that was really full of tradition, and I really didn't understand the tradition like that. And understanding more of it was really the key for me to keep moving forward, actually. And I understand, like, I know in some situations where it's difficult to do some stuff because it's part of the tradition, it's part of how we were raised. But the fact that getting more knowledge about your heritage and being proud of where you're from is such a main key of, like, especially moving forward in anywhere in life. But if you guys do have any type of questions, you guys can call us now at 312-738-1060 for any types of questions or comments. So tell me a little more about the programs that you offer and the skills to help kids develop.
We do offer 5 programs right now that we are collaborating with other organizations. We're working with She Crew to do it's an all-female girl empowerment program, journalism, theater, music video production. It's an after-school matters funded program. We're doing that at Prosser High School. Bomba, which is a traditional Puerto Rican drumming program. We're doing that at our center, and that's funded through After School Matters as well. We're also doing a mural program at the center. It's kind of a community beautification program that incorporates some, mural techniques, graffiti techniques, and then the Technocratic Learning Center of Chicago, TLC, is doing a program kind of to teach kids about blogging, but also about building computers as well.
And that's really interesting because, like, here in Focus on Tomorrow, we actually do host our own After School Matters video production program. And, kids love the technology and exploring the creativity. But, how does your video production program help kids identify with their heritage?
Well, they definitely learn about, it's not only beat making and then making music videos, because they learn about the instruments. And a lot of times we don't know what instruments, is involved in a lot of music. So in the beginning of the program, the first couple of weeks, they go over instruments. And a lot of times, and then also the origins of certain music, the origins of salsa, the origins of merengue. So they try to touch about, generally on the music. And I think that helps the students really understand their own culture, or even relate to, a lot of them are like, I listen to mariachi. I don't know what, what kind of instruments, but then, they're there to help them understand it. And they develop a whole new, like, respect for it, too.
Right, definitely. So, like, do you design your programs to focus on areas like, civic involvement, citizenship, cultural identity, and things of that nature?
Well, I think because we've reopened our doors. I think that's something we should have mentioned. We reopened our space. We rehabbed. The goal was to open our doors, bring our youth in. Bomba's part of it. And then bring in these other programs. I think the most important thing is to have fun first. Okay. If a kid can find his niche and have fun and trust you, then you start bringing in these kind of heavier subjects. I think if we had started with immediately bombarding our young people with civic engagement, this and this, it would turn them off, because you got to build a relationship.
Right. And it kind of comes. I'm sorry, but it kind of comes naturally, like civic engagement, especially with them working. We did in 2009, before we worked out of the storefront of one of the buildings. We did a After School Matters documentary program where the students kind of went to each business and started learning about each business and interviewing them and doing. It was called My Hood, Our Stories, and that kind of in and of itself kind of came with that civic engagement, but not in a direct way.
Right.
We're engaging our youth too because they like the center. So and then we're able to, like, get them to try things and think about things that they probably never thought about before. And I think one of the things that this year particularly we're trying to establish is this is a safe space. I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to. They told me not to hit the thing, and I'm hitting the thing. That this is a safe space, and that once they realize that it's a safe space, I can try this or I can try that, and that's part of our goal for this particular year. As we move forward, we definitely want our kids to engage and think about how they can, not what they can get out of the center, but what they can put into the center, what they can bring to the neighborhood. And that, I think, is year 2. Right now, it's just establishing our programs, saying that we're here, we're open, we're doing things. We accept you for how you are. You're having a bad day, you can still come in. You need an hour. You just want to sit there. You can sit there. I'd rather have you here than out there. And once they start seeing, oh, this is a safe place, then you got them. Then they're your captive audience, and then they're willing to take that risk, And the goal is to take that journey with them. And that's the best way to teach. It's not from the top down. It's where you and I together are going to explore this. You and I together, we're going to, and every single time I think we've had success. I mean, whenever we have success, it's because we've taken that journey with our young people. And that's the process we're in now.
And like you were just talking about, you said it's a safe environment for everybody to go into and express exactly what they're feeling. So in 2007, you guys moved from Wicker Park to the Hermosa neighborhood, right? So can you tell us what sparked an interest to move, and what is your relationship with your new neighborhood?
Well, the reason why we moved is because our constituency moved,
okay.
Right? In the 80s and 90s, nobody wanted to live in Wicker Park, right? But then someone deemed the neighborhood worthy of, rebuilding, right? And so our people moved. If you look at the history of Chicago, the Puerto Rican community is the most displaced ethnic group in the history of the city of Chicago.
Really?
Yep.
Can you tell us a little more about that?
Well, we started off in Lincoln Park, got booted out of Lincoln Park, went to Wicker Park, got booted out of Wicker Park, established and literally planted flags to say we're going to be, and now there's this movement to move the constituents from Humboldt Park, and now Hermosa has become, the neighborhood we're in, is the second largest concentration of the Puerto Rican community, as well as Belmont Craig. And so, our people seem to be getting pushed, and I think the organization, the founders thought Humboldt Park is the place to be, but there were so many other organizations there. It's just saturated with groups. Hermosa made sense. Hermosa is a working class neighborhood. Hermosa, people have heard of food deserts. We look at Hermosa as a cultural and arts desert. There really isn't anything there for that community. And so we said we are going to set up shop there, and the space we bought was conducive. It's the old Karloff movie theater. It just made sense, and the pieces came together, and so that's why we moved. But we moved because our people moved, our constituents, the people that we want to serve, people that we want to help moved.
And so the building you bought in Hermosa is 13,000 square feet, am I right?
Yes.
And it was renovated by Designs for Dignity?
Yes.
So can you tell us about
Shed Studios was the architect. Designs for Dignity is the nonprofit group that helped us create the space and make it visually like this. I can't say enough about. Made it gorgeous. Design for Dignities. Look them up. They saw something that I think maybe, sometimes when you're too close to something, you can't see it because you're so close to it. They are able to draw back and say, we can make this space conducive to what you want to do. And they did exactly that. I couldn't even see I couldn't understand half the time what they were doing. And this is the point. Let designers design. I'm not a designer. And so we just, and I made a conscious to take a step back and let them do it. And they did an incredible job. And we're grateful for them. We can't say enough. And Shed Studios also was another organization that they were the architects. They believed in us, and even sometimes we didn't believe in ourselves. They believed in us, and they said, "No, we can create something really special here." And they helped us, and they guided us, and got us tons of furniture, tons of things that we probably couldn't afford to have. A bar from the Meditation Buddhist Center, refurbished Oprah's from the old store. Chairs from the Merchandise Mart that we use as theater seating, Henry Miller furniture, tens of thousands of dollars of furniture they got for us. A staircase within the theater that was salvaged from Harry Weiss Design. I mean, it was a collage of things that they brought into this space, and it looked like chaos, but man, when it formed, it was mind-blowing. And I was like when I got my first car, You know, when you get your first car, I don't know if you ever experienced that. It's just beautiful, and they just did incredible work. So yeah, I was like a kid in a candy shop. I was, the way they even the way they were placing the furniture was incredible, and it just made sense. We were really grateful for them.
So, you know, by the renovation of that building, do you really think like it benefited a lot of your students?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think
I mean,
that
do you think
them
so?
coming into such a beautiful space and colorful space in in the neighborhood is like, I mean, they don't expect it. And when they're, it kind of makes it more, I don't want to say use the word credible, but it makes them, you know, like appreciate it more, appreciate their neighborhood and really respect their neighborhood and their community in a different way.
Yeah.
In a different way, I think.
I not only think it helped the kids, I think it helped that neighborhood. I think we changed, along with Design for Dignity and Shed Studios, we changed the face of that neighborhood.
And how exactly did you guys do that?
By making a space accessible and beautiful, that if you took that space and put it in Wicker Park or Lincoln Park, it would just be another funky space. But it's in that neighborhood that people aren't expecting much from. And that's what makes it beautiful. You find beauty in a neighborhood that people don't find very attractive.
Yeah.
That's how we
exactly.
changed the neighborhood.
People, you know, when I grew up in that area, I was like, okay, downtown is the place to go for music, or certain neighborhoods that were further east are always the place for that cultural engagement, or, you know, going to concerts or whatever. You know, never thought of my neighborhood, okay, let me walk 2 blocks and right here's a place to go for after school programming. I've always had to take the bus. And so, because I was born, I lived part of my life in Hermosa and Logan Square.
Awesome, and the thing is too, I think when it comes to that type of stuff too, you said a lot of people like, you know, downtown is a place to be for music, or this place is the place to be because of that. But a lot of people don't realize, you know, your culture has tons of music. Your culture has tons of crazy, cool ideas you guys come up with, and like the way you guys expressed it to Hermosa was really, really cool. The fact that you guys said that, you know, you changed Hermosa and you guys made it to a whole cultural center where people could just enjoy themselves and be proud of their culture. So going back to the Bamba music program, of course it's a unique and addictive Puerto Rican culture. So can you explain what Bamba music really is and how the program works?
So Bamba music derived in Puerto Rico in the sugar plantations during slavery. So it was just a circle of people, you know, that kind of turned stories into songs. So stories of love, stories of struggle, stories of what they were going through, you know, during those times. And it's basically one of the drummers, El Primo, they follow the dancer. So that's what's a little different about most drumming type of music.
I'm sorry, the dancer dictates the beat. Or, you know, so it's a very...
There's basic
the drummer
beats,
has to be in sync with the dancer, which is very interesting. So it's almost like the drummer is dancing with the dancer. And I thought that's something... Again, I did not know this until I started working there, because, you know, I was born and raised in Chicago, and so these things I started to learn. So my journey, you know, our journey. I mean, Amber is more the bomba expert; she can tell you more. But it's an interesting, if you think about it, right? Usually it's the drumming that drives the movement, but this is the other way around. I thought. And
it's a whole new type of communication.
Yeah.
It's a whole new type of communication. You could see the intense face of the drummer and the dancer, like looking at each other, trying to trick each other, and it gets really playful sometimes. But there are basic rhythms that follow, you know, and they do bombazos. Our bomba students performed at Africaribe's bombazo last Saturday, and so we hope to have them perform at different areas too. And within the schools, I think it's really important because a lot of them don't know, and a lot of them that came in did not know about this music,
Really?
and they got so engaged. We started off with 1 boy, we have 2 boys, and like 14 girls, and then, you know, they love it.
You see, and that's how it starts off. I mean,
Yeah.
think about it. They came in not knowing exactly what they're going to do.
And
you know?
we have these young ladies. I mean, we have a couple kids that are like prodigies. I mean, they only started in the summertime, and yet now they're just. I mean, it's really interesting. The first thing they say when they come in, can I grab a drum?
Go ahead.
Yeah, you don't even have to ask.
It's therapy for them,
Yeah.
and a lot of the bomba and performers see it as therapy, and I agree with it.
And just to backtrack a little bit, I mean, the Segundo Ruiz Belvis brought bomba to Chicago, so a lot of the bomba groups that you see now had spent some time in Segundo Ruiz Belvis, so that's the legacy Ruiz Belvis has, where it brought bomba to Chicago when it wasn't there. It just wasn't there. And well, explain a little bit about the drum. I mean, that would
Yeah,
be also
definitely.
interesting.
Oh, it's a rum barrel.
Okay.
So it's a wider drum, and they all use these drums, and it's very unique to this particular music too. I mean, a lot of times people, buy them from Puerto Rico and have them sent over here. There's very few people in Chicago that create these drums. You can't just go to any store and find them.
Oh, wow.
So it's a pretty unique instrument.
And when I think
A
it's very
deeper sound too.
Right.
And what I think is very indicative is like, it's the working class, right? It's almost like a working class instrument because you have to make it yourself. And it's a rum barrel, and you take what's around you and you make it work. And I think it's very indicative of Latinos in general. I don't want to say, oh, this is only Puerto Ricans do this, but I think Latinos in general, hey, what can we get to work for? Let me grab this. Can I make something? I mean, even the idea of the drum itself it's a piece of art. Yeah. It's a real piece of art, and we have a young man who makes a couple drums a year because he puts his heart and soul into them, and you could just it's fascinating. It's just so interesting, and it excites me because I'm not a musician, but I understand the importance, of that, and I want to be able to help bring that and share that with people.
And with all these programs that you guys have, from the mural program, from the She Crew, what are these kids that participate in the programs? Like, do most of them come from like a low income neighborhood, or do a lot of them just come from anywhere around the city?
It varies. We have had kids come from the south side and
Yep.
Really?
from different areas more towards Lincoln Park, but the majority is from that neighborhood. And yes, the majority is low income, I would say, in my
You
opinion.
would say because
I haven't
of
done
the
a
low income.
complete survey, but I
But it's a
think
working
that
class
it's
neighborhood.
definitely a
Of
working
course.
class.
Of course.
And I think part of our mission, part of what drives us is that working class people have a right to be involved in the arts. In cultural institutions in neighborhoods like ours, and we're not the only cultural institution in neighborhoods, but these things are necessary because it shouldn't just be with people who have money enough to go to downtown and afford the museum, and it's not and it's not accessible art, So I'm very big on that. When I see people, I always say, working class. Look at me. Working class people have a right to be on the arts, and so that's one of the things I carry with me as a banner. And so,
And
it's important.
and I know, and you what you just said, working class people should be in the art. I mean, there is a lot of murals are really popular within Hispanic neighborhoods. Am I right?
Yeah.
So, can you tell us more about the mural program that contributes to the community and how it helps the young artist connect with his or her heritage?
Right now we just started the program, so
Okay.
we're working within the center and creating art within the center and trying to still build a solid group to work. We have some students from Pritzker, from what used to be Ames and Kelvin Park coming in, but we still, right now it's cold, so they can't be working. So we're trying to build connections with different businesses or the organizations in the area. I know Bikes for Life, they want some work done outside. So, we're hoping to, in the future, once it gets nicer out, to
Right.
work on more murals. But right now we're working on art within our space too.
Awesome.
Beautify our space. We still have some artwork outside of our space as well. So.
And this is what I also want to go back to your question, right? Well, how does that help? When you're able to see an image that represents you in a positive way, you're able to get through the day. Like I said before, we have our own building. We created murals that are only positive images. No gangbangers have tagged over that. We painted our building a bright orange in a neighborhood of like black gates and gray brown buildings. No one's come and tagged it because they know that
It's a big deal.
it's a big deal because you gotta see
Everything is tagged
everything
up
else
and
gets tagged out, but
Yeah.
this one building they know is like that place is doing something good. I may not go in there, but maybe my son or daughter, or maybe my cousin, or my little sister. So it creates this sense of respect and like pride. I mean, I know people in the neighborhood who never entered this space, but really admire it from an outside.
They have a respect for it.
They have a respect for
definitely-
it. So it helps. Yeah. It helps when you only see negative things. That's what ends up happening.
And don't you think it amazes you sometimes how like you said, you guys have this big bright orange building, but yet it's not even tagged on. Like it's not even tagged on yet. And I feel like that's really amazing, don't you guys think? The fact that no one tags in the building,
Yeah.
coming from a rough neighborhood like that. I mean, I just think it shows so much pride and respect for the neighborhood. You know what I mean, in general. Because like even when you're tagging on the wall or somewhere, you're just really disrespecting your own neighborhood and the people that lives in it.
Yeah.
So the fact that
I know we got to
tagging
wrap
in
up, but I got to mention December 4th, 5th, and 6th, Segundo Ruiz Belvis Cultural Center is going to be having a bunch of events. So we got
Perfect.
Tisha waving a sign at us. Trying to hit us with
Perfect.
this sign.
Yes, and we do actually have a woman left in the show. Is there anything else you guys would like to say before we wrap up?
Let's repeat that again.
You want to repeat that again?
Yeah, you can go to our website at srbcc.org/events and check out all the events we have for December. Definitely, we're having a parranda, youth showcase, and then we're also having Las Fiestas de las Calles de San Sebastián.
We are turning our theater into Old San Juan, buildings and all. Words don't do it justice. Come see us. Go to our website. You guys are gonna have fun. We're bringing art and culture to our neighborhoods. So.
And I just want to thank you guys so much for coming out and showing us exactly about this cultural center. And hopefully, the way you guys are going, it's working out pretty good. So thank you so much. And for those who don't know, this is Focus on Tomorrow. Focus on Tomorrow is a nonprofit organization which is located in Chicago, Illinois. You can find us on the web at www.focus-on-tomorrow.org, or you can email us info at focus-on-tomorrow.org. Once again, I'm Uriel Caballero, and I'll see you guys next week.